Welcome to Fast Pace, the new growth, leadership and management podcast featuring Josh Phegan and Dean Mackie. We wanted to peel back the layers on what happens in the world of fast-paced real estate agencies, from new leadership models to the management challenges we all face each day. This is about a new era in the estate agency sector. Rapid changes to business models, service lines, remuneration and growth present the greatest opportunities that we've ever seen. Sit back, get inspired, grow your skills and reimagine what's possible with Fast Pace. Every Friday, wherever you get your podcasts, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Josh Phegan Digital. Hitting refresh on a one-page business plan is really critical. And regardless of whether or not you're planning for a big business or a small business or an individual team, what's really important is that you've got to have some good analysis. Dean, I'm a believer in having that one-page summary at the front of that business plan. Obviously, there's a lot of thinking that goes into that. We've trained it for many years. We go to call it our Everest mission, where we start to say, hey, where are we at today and where do we want to go over the next 5 years? And in great businesses that have really taken the advice, you've got real clarity on the purpose. You know, what are we actually here to do? You've got really clear missions. So right now our mission is a very specific set of numbers that we want to achieve, listings and sales and total income production type stuff. There are examples of that. And then, you know, what are your strengths right now that we should be leveraging, and what are the strengths that we then should be developing? And actually making sure that one-page plan is really, really clear, and that all of your planning, and we've just come from a 2-day planning retreat for our business, down in Tassie, where we've gone and reset the vision for the business over the next 5 years. You know, what does Josh Phegan look like in 2028? You know, all of those types of things. And it's awesome, Dean, to get to that level. And it's so funny because people look at that one-page business plan and they go, oh, Josh, we could probably do that in 20 minutes, or mate, we never get out of doing it in under 2 days, because it's really thinking through, critically what we want to do, who do we want to become, all of those things, but making sure that we've actually got a really clear plan. As we go into the micro levels of an agent's business plan, I always go back to them and say, okay, great, tell me, what do you want to do? Listing, sales and income. What sort of market share is that? Let's have a bit of review on numbers last year. What's our prediction for next year? And then in addition to that, let's really break it down to the very simple things of how many appraisals do you need to get to that number of listings. I had a meeting with Alex Phillips the other day. It was something like 800 market appraisals in his personal team for last year, and that resulted in 260 listings. So if you think about that, it's basically about a quarter-ish, so 1 in 4 turn into a live listing. So whatever your numbers are, that's a number that works in his world. What's yours? How important is it, Dean, for people to get crystal clear on just keeping it really simple, basics, knowledge of numbers, knowledge of what actually works to amplify inside of the business, and having that on a nice one-pager so everyone's aligned about where we're going and what we're going to do?
Yeah, mate, obviously it's crucial, right? It was a rhetoric question. The truth is that, most of us are not clear on what we need to do each and every day to shift the dial and produce an outcome, a productive outcome. And you can get yourself caught into all sorts of things if you're not clear about what it is that you need to achieve. So if you're unclear, chances are you're coming into the office and, you don't know exactly what you want to get out of the day. And therefore you're saying yes to conversations that you shouldn't be, getting involved in things that you don't need to be, because you're not saying no to stuff because you're not clear about where it is you want to go to. And then you're saying yes to other stuff that's actually taking you away. And a lot of people run this sort of distraction model because they sort of feel that they need to be there doing something.
Yeah.
Or they go missing in action and work from home because they just want to hide from the fact that they're not actually, and it's just clarity. I think if you can if you get really clear and then develop habits around that in itself and say, right, and so there's many examples, and I think about this because sometimes people realise that they've got to make some changes and make some improvements, and maybe they're off track and what they need to know. I think a lot of people at the moment are off track. Mm-hmm. And so I sort of was talking to someone this morning in a coaching session. I said, look, perhaps we just got to be uncomfortable for a few months. And by being uncomfortable and being prepared to sort of change those habits and stop a few things and try a few things that you haven't, and develop habit around that, that's going to set you up for years to come, especially if you're talking about people's health. So this is not just about, when I look at someone's plan for the year, I'm not just looking at their plan for the year about their metrics, because that's just a reverse engineering exercise. Mm-hmm. I know that if I do X number of appraisals, I'll get X number of things. How many phone calls do I have to make and all that sort of stuff. But it's making sure that for the year you've got your breaks in there. Every quarter you've got a break, you've got some long weekends, you've got all the things that are in there that are important to you. But it's also about saying, because your well-being is actually going to fuel your performance. Mm-hmm. And so for me, if you've got a one-page plan, it needs to consider those items as well. So I've had someone do an exercise the other day. I got them to put 2023 up on the page, and I just coached them through this scenario. I said, okay, in the middle, draw a circle, circle of the page, and inside that circle, I want you to write I am. And I just want you to start writing all the things this year that you're going to be. And you know,
fit, happy, healthy, great relationships.
I'm going to build deeper connections. I'm going to prioritize myself a bit more. All those sorts of things, because those are the things that are at the heart of it are going to support the habit of the metrics in the business. So I said then on the outside of the circle, all right, all the things you're going to let go of. You know, negative self-talk, putting myself last, excuses, all that sort of stuff. And I think it's just simple stuff that sort of goes, okay, right, I've got to get back, and I'm going to distill it back to what are the 3 or 4 things. What are the things in the business? What are the things in my health? What are the things in my relationship? What are those 3 or 4 things in each of those buckets that I just need to pay attention to over the next 12 months? Because you can't do this in a non-holistic way. It's got to be holistic, you know. And I'm sure, you know, Alexander Phillips is also knocking off at 3 o'clock and going for a swim or something. You know, like you have to have balance in terms of what you do. Otherwise, it's unsustainable. So you know, once you get to those 3 things in each of the key buckets, the next question is, well, out of those 3, what's the one thing that's most important, and what are we going to do around that, right? So then it's just breaking into bite-sized steps that say, when I'm coming in each day, I know today that I've got to have eaten well. I know that I've got to have done my 20 minutes of exercise or whatever you want to do, you know, just meditation in the night time. Yeah. I've made the calls that I need to make. I've connected with all the vendors. I've done all those, you know, I've sent some send thank you cards. I mean, do you know how good that is? Because it's a space of gratitude. How nice is it if you receive a thank you card from someone these days? You know, it's just ridiculous, right? So do all the little things that are important to you to have a great day, and the rest will just happen. But you just need to make sure you're clear on what those things are, and they're aligned to your 2023 plan.
You know, Dan, it's kind of interesting, you know, someone says, oh, why do you go out to 5 years? Well, it says a lot about my intention around what I do today, because if I need to develop the next market or grow market share in units or houses or whatever, then I'll start thinking about that. And as a business owner, if I'm starting to think about that business plan, I really want to be saying, well, you know, how big is my property management, and am I going to be doing an acquisition, or is it just going to be organic growth? And so you don't have to know exactly how to get there, but if you set the intention, then all of a sudden things will mysteriously start coming into your life that help you to get there, right?
It's all that unconscious, you know, your reticular activating system, which will seek those out. But I think, you know, I guess to build on that point, Josh, what I'd say is, you know, start something you can do every single day, right? Not like, because I think sometimes people think too big.
Go for a walk.
You know, exactly. Just start something small, right? That you know you can do, because people start too big and then nothing actually happens because, you know, it's just too big, you know?
It's like revolutions or evolutions.
Totally.
I saw this guy talking about diet, and he said, you know, like, oh, no, I'm going to eat this way and I'm going to go and do all of these things. And it was like really, really hard. And it was a complete opposite to what he was doing on the normal day. And then they had this other guy, and he said, well, you know, what I'm going to do this year is I'm just going to try and make the best choice out for every meal that I can. So when I'm at a restaurant, I'm going to try and choose the healthiest meal that's on the menu, as opposed to the chips and whatever.
And guess what, though? You don't need to do it every single day, right? Like, like I was saying to you on the way in, like for me, I need to do the same for a whole bunch of reasons. Yeah. And I said, well, I'm not going to become the monk and just the person that's really difficult to hang around. You know, I'm going to do it for 5 days on and 2 days off. Make it really simple. And it also makes it easy for me, right? Because I mean, if I try and think I'm going to do this for 90 days, it's too big. By day 15, I'm like, I've had enough of this, right? But it's easy to do it for 5 days and knowing I'm going to have 2 days off. So just think about how you make those pain points to create habitual change easier for yourself, right? So it's keeping it small.
And sustainable over time. Like Sue McCarthy at the Kangaroo Island Health Retreat would say 15 and 21. Like, what do you mean? She goes, so you're going to have 21 meals a week if you believe in 3 meals a day. She said, have 15 to your dietary plan.
Gotcha.
The other 6 you can kind of do whatever you want. So have a good breakfast at home. And then if you're out at dinner at night, that's okay. But make sure that you're just staying consistent over that period. When you go back into really doing it, I just think it's impossible to coach someone if you don't know the numbers, because I don't know if we're really on track or off track. So that's why the business plan's a really important conversation, because I want to know, are we getting close? You know, so if we're planning to do 50 transactions a year, then we need to be doing 5 a month. And if we're
in month 3 and we're at 0, that. I mean, the biggest thing, people just amortize it over the whole month. What you really need to do is go, okay, well, what's the historical volume for the last 3 years per month, and then break it down on that basis. So then you need to know. So 90 days out, if you're running 90 days, you should your appraisals to your calls to appraisals to listing appointments. That will often tell you what you've got coming. But if you've got a shortfall, you've got to work out. The biggest thing I find is people don't get it for a month, and they think, oh, well, I've just lost that month. No. Now what else do we need to do to get you back on track? So it's a good way to keep yourself on track, because you go, well, the activity that I put in place last month didn't get me what I needed. I need to lift it, right? And you've got to keep doing those sorts of things. So I'd say having some real self-awareness and some real self-accountability in your plan is really important, because you know, if you get that, you'll be able to build a bridge past your fears. And I think there's a lot of people that sometimes when they set a plan, they set a plan, but they often somewhere inside themselves haven't really, put that hat on and said, I can actually achieve this. And so therefore, and sometimes that sort of limiting beliefs, right, sort of shreds the opportunity, right? So I think you just got to get clear. You got to break it down and be really simple. And sometimes when you break it down, it's actually really, really simple. If you got into 5 doors a day, is that a big number? Maybe, but maybe for you the number's 2. So if you did 2 appraisals a day, what's the reverse engineering exercise you got to do to actually create that? And if you're then of those 2 appraisals, you're getting one out of 50% of that's converting. Then you could. I'm just making those metrics up, but as long as you know what those numbers are, you can just reverse engineer the rest.
So Dean, here's the clincher. We know we're supposed to have one. Do you? And that's the sort of thing I want. So you got to have a 1-pager. It's a good summary.
Yep.
And my challenge for everyone who listens to the podcast, once you get out of this,
100%,
go and get one.
Josh, and then take that and then break it into 90-day sprints.
Right? And make sure you can show me on a phone because the phone goes with you everywhere.
I agree, mate. And look, the other thing is, I'd say, I just want to make a comment about digital again. I think a lot of people out there spending a lot of money on digital that's just wasted. We've engaged with a business called Rowdy Fox. Rowdy are really good. What I love is that what we're learning is we're not building a social profile to get attention. We're building it with intention to get leads to convert, right? So I just say, as part of your 2023 plan, I know a lot of people out there spending money and doing stuff. Just take a step back, find someone to work with that can actually help you make it meaningful.
And what I always say is, what's the problem you're trying to solve?
Yeah.
Yeah.